We just heard earlier from Chris Huff about the innovation that's taking place within the Kofax portfolio. And quite frankly, it's an exciting time. Some of the big ideas that he talked about within his presentation really revolve around how, with digital workflow transformation, we can leverage data and intelligence to get to insights more quickly. He talked about efficiency and mobility and leveraging cloud as a delivery means and a delivery vehicle to get the outcomes faster. He talked about building agility via strategic operating model and putting governance around automation, along with empowering a base of citizen developers, right? Building a broad base of talent, bringing the business along with us into this digital age. My name is David Santongo, and I am a director within our commercial product management group at Kofax. Very excited as I get to spend time working with our R&D teams and also with our customers, and making sure that our product line, making sure that our capabilities are aligned with where they're headed and the challenges that they're looking to solve. And quite frankly, the world really is stepping into an accelerated rate of change. And that really leads us into this moment, this point on the agenda, where we've brought together quite the lineup of individuals to have a very practical discussion about achieving the state of being a connected enterprise. An enterprise that is connected its systems, that is connected its data, and is connected its people in order to affect measurable outcomes and change to its customers and also to its employees internally. We've brought together Praveen Badada, a managing partner with this Node Research Group, a global management strategy and consulting firm with a core focus on digitization, digital transformation, product management, and advisory. We've also brought on Pascal Smitsers, the head of robotics at ABN AMRO Bank, the third largest bank in the Netherlands. And we've also brought on Jasper Schuppenhuizen, one of our rockstar solution analysts here at Kofax. I think all together we're going to have a very rich and insightful conversation on this topic. Welcome, gentlemen, and happy that you're here with us today.
Happy to be here too.
Thanks, David. Glad to be here.
Thank you.
Glad to be here. Yeah.
So what I'd like to do with you over the next 30 minutes, gentlemen, is to dive deeper with our listeners about how organizations are moving towards this more connected state. Bringing together critical capabilities from technology and also complementing to people to do more. I want to talk about why business leaders should care about this, how organizations can get there, and ultimately overlaying this with user stories to make things practical for our audience. Before I get started, for those of you who are listening, just want to make sure that you're aware of the chat that's off to the right. We will have our Kofax team on live and answering some of your questions, providing feedback to you as you engage throughout this session. So please take advantage of that as our way to make this experience a little bit more interactive. So without further ado, I do want to start with Praveen in terms of the first question. Chris talked about how capabilities like RPA, BPM, and document intelligence are really coming into focus, right? As organizations are looking to manage their data, get to decision-making more rapidly. And he talked about momentum and adoption as well. Can you just paint a clear picture of this rate of adoption, how quickly and how rapidly you're seeing organizations across sectors and industry lines bring this into their business?
Absolutely, David. First of all, it's a pleasure to be with all the other fellow panelists. And I think it's a great way to start this conversation. Obviously, if you look at enterprises globally over the last 5 to 7 years, they have been consistently prioritizing digital transformation initiatives. And we are starting to see significant momentum in the way investments are happening in all kinds of digital initiatives. In the context of what we're discussing today, which is really around hyper-intelligent automation, I think that's one of the sectors among everything else that has gotten to the top of the CIO priorities and the CXO priorities in most of the enterprises that we engage with. In fact, at our organization, we've been very closely monitoring the largest of large enterprises for their automation initiatives. We're tracking about 250 large global companies, and the trends we are noticing is kind of very prominent in terms of the momentum that is there in terms of investments in automation. Just to give you some numbers and details there, right? I think if you look at year 2019, right, where when we did a similar analysis, about 59% of the companies were thinking of automation, were making some investment in automation, right? That number actually dramatically changed in 2020, right? That number got to about 75% of the large global 250 companies making some sort of investment. And if you look at today, in the first quarter of 2021 itself, the number has shot to about 90%. So the scale that we're talking about is that 90% of the large companies are really making some sort of investment in automation, right? Now, when you peel the onion further, right, what's happening is obviously it's a journey, and Pascal and Jesper will talk a little bit more about that. A lot of companies are starting to accelerate the maturity, right? So back in 2019, our assessment suggested that about 7 to 8% companies were truly mature in their automation initiatives. Today, the number stands at roughly about 20%, right? So it's a threefold jump in terms of the maturity that companies have attained in the automation world. I think there's a lot more realization about the power of technology, David. I think the space itself has warmed up quite a bit. There are about 1,600 global automation platforms, be it in terms of process discovery or document processing or business transformation, RPA, workflow solutions. If you look at all of that in totality, there are roughly about 1,600 platforms. And from an enterprise perspective, enterprises are getting very clear in terms of having a multi-platform strategy, right? To be able to derive the best of breed solutions across the value chain of automation, right? So in our assessment, about 55% of companies actually have more than one automation platform that they've invested into. There are other very interesting trends. If you think of low code, no code, which is the buzz of the town all this while, about 60% companies today are experimenting with low code, no code. They are bringing in the citizen developers into the fold to be able to derive outcomes of it. We are seeing about 30% companies actually completely transition from hey, I will start with a tool and do something on automation, to actually being very scientific about looking at processes very deeply and figuring out inefficiencies there, right? So about 30% companies are, instead of taking a tools first approach, they are actually taking a process first approach, right? So they are looking at process and totality and investing time on it. About 60% companies have set up a center of excellence, right? So to be able to manage it holistically, right? To be able to run program at a scale, 60% of these Fortune 250 companies have also invested in a digital transformation / automation center of excellence, which I think is phenomenally bigger compared to 2019, where the number used to be about 35% or so, right? So no matter which slice of the market you look at, David, in every segment, we are seeing a 2x or a 3x growth in the way enterprise think about this market. So all put together, I think I 100% agree to Chris's point and your point around momentum. We are seeing tremendous momentum. The addressable opportunity is ranging in the order of about $200 billion today in automation. And I'm pretty confident the next 5 years are going to be massively impressive in the way innovation happens in the automation world. So absolutely terrific time to be in this industry.
That's really helpful, Praveen. And I mean, just seeing rates like 50% who have gotten started to 90%, right, in the span of 12 to 15 months. 1,600 technology players who have jumped into the space trying to deliver to the needs of customers. And I think you said 60% who have built centers of excellence. I mean, yeah, it just goes to show this is an area that many are focusing on. And that actually leads me to the next question, which is for Jesper. We've heard Praveen talk about capabilities like low code, right, and process discovery. And he overlaid that with some of the things that I referred to earlier on RPA and BPM. How does all of this overlay with the capabilities within the overall Kofax portfolio and some of the more frequent discussions that you're having as you're advising leaders across the world?
Yeah, that's a good point, David. And I have to agree with what Praveen just said. What we see from a Kofax perspective is we see a development there where organizations need to embrace, well, as Praveen already said, a best of breed or multi-platform approach. But the most important thing there is, of course, the whole platform positioning. because we've all seen what happened when you had these, let's call them, well, disconnected initiatives, POCs with automation, maybe some AI mixed into here and there. And that was all nice and done. But if you truly want to achieve digital transformation, you needed to have something that was implemented in a more enterprise-wide approach. And I think that, well, the whole no-code play that you've got there, that's something that we as Kofax have embraced, well, maybe from 20 years ago, where even before the whole notion of the citizen developer came into play. If I look at our Total Agility flagship, which is meant for citizen developers, that we are investing in heavily with capabilities like quick capture and quick workflow. If I look at our RPA solution that's being used by citizen developers all across the globe in large-scale enterprises and smaller organizations as well. Or if I look at Kofax Communication Manager, that has the whole business-owned, business-managed, IT-controlled vision there as well. So that's one thing. And if you then, on top of that, take the BPM capabilities, process discovery, and as Praveen mentioned it, a process approach first instead of a solution approach, that's when I think we can truly make a difference. And I think that's what allows, well, our Kofax users to work like tomorrow today.
Thank you, Jesper. And just hanging on to the end of what you said, right? Truly making a difference, working like tomorrow, like today. Now, I want to shift to Pascal in our discussion to translate momentum and adoption of capabilities and technology into outcomes for the business. And Pascal, you have been on this journey for the last last several of years now, sorry. And you've really taken the bank from strategy and vision to execution, to impact, and really to results, right? So first off, I just want to start with when you did start your program, and what was your initial case for change?
Yeah, thanks, David. It was a challenging and exciting journey in the past couple of years. We started in 2017, where we founded the automation program. We started with the capabilities of RPA and RAD, which is rapid application development and deployment. So the low-code technology that Praveen earlier spoke about. So this was 2017, and these technologies were emerging. And the case for change was driven from IT to experiment with this new technology. It was quite immature at the time. We also had no experience with this technology. But now we have grown from one team to over 200 professionals working on process automation, adding BPM and enterprise integration technologies, which is our internal and external API gateways, in order to create and transition to the next level, which is the hyper automation stage, and combining these technologies.
That's incredible, Pascal. I mean, going from 1 to 200 folks, it really is a testament to bringing the business along with you. Now, I do want to dive deeper into some of the areas of the business that you focused on initially in terms of targeting for automation. Where did you start? What problems were you initially focused on solving? And we can kind of dive deeper into what the journey looked like from that point.
Yeah, we had a difficult start, especially when proving that RPA is a feasible, a viable technology for any organization. Our first use case was in our operations department, operations NL, which focuses on large manual processes. Think of onboarding new customers, closing accounts, fraud handling, customer due diligence. We started with the first robot in operations, and it nearly took 6 months for that robot to, well, go from idea to production. And this was because there were many technical challenges, right? We had to figure out how to position RPA in our landscape, as well as build up the experience. And next to the technical challenges, funding for a project with unproven technology is always challenging. And bear in mind, it was early 2017, right? So there were no use cases at that time to present. So we had to create the use cases and convince our business. So this convincing was really necessary. And luckily, any operations department is well, driven on saving costs and have strict SLAs. Where every second counts. So we could prove that our technology would help meeting those SLAs and reduce the costs. And especially with that first robot, after it took 6 months, our businesses started to see that this was a viable technology, and they were ready to invest in more robots, and more RPA use cases followed quite shortly. Next to that, there was also the threat in 2017 that robots would take over their work, the work of people. People were afraid they were losing jobs. So it was a real threat to the human workforce. By proving that there is a case with where robots and human work together, by taking the robot outside the human and creating better processes, and therefore unlocking the potential that people really have, right? So we are not built to shove paper from one side to the next side. We are built to really think. And by proving that the human workforce could coexist next to the robotics workforce, we are really helping the adoption of our automation program within ABN AMRO.
Very, very helpful. And to that earlier point, right, automation complementing people. I do want to jump over to Jesper briefly, and maybe you can share a few thoughts on also how you've helped people to see past some of the fears that can be initially present, right? Is automation going to replace me? What strategies have you used in order to expand, right, someone's thinking or expand the leader's thinking and allow them or enable them to get the broader business on board?
Indeed. Well, it's all down to digital workflow transformation. That's the whole reason why we are talking about these things. That state of hyper intelligent automation where organizations are truly capable of transforming a business process from start to finish. And I think that once you start to think about those kind of challenges, then you'll come and find that there will always be a position for humans within those processes, because we humans do something that robots simply can't do, and that is being creative and having that human touch. So what we need to find is a place where we can have a hybrid workforce working together. So artificial intelligence, robotics, BPM, you name it, but marry that to that human talent that we have and bring that together. I think that once you start seeing that as a holistic platform approach that is being backed by not just the C-level within the organization, but also from the workforce that is seeing higher and higher demands being placed upon them, more work with less people, they need to have the right tools to do their job the right way. And they will start seeing nowadays that they need that. They need to have that technology in place as well in order to achieve that.
Thank you, Jesper. And in terms of achievement, just shifting back to Pascal, I know you positioned, it took about 6 months to get to the first automated process, and then there was an accelerated rate of change that ensued at that point. Can you just talk a little bit more to some of the results that you've been able to realize, maybe as measured through processing times decreasing or greater levels of efficiency? Just want to better understand, how things look better, how things look different at ABN AMRO today.
Yeah, we've achieved amazing results over the past 4 years. So that first robot took 6 months to go through production, and unfortunately, that robot doesn't exist anymore. But it was a real milestone on that first robot. So right now we work in sprints and we produce robots that go to production every 2 weeks. And the results that we have is that some processes have reduced to 95% on time. And as you know, time is a tremendous cost driver for the bank. So having 90% reduction is an enormous cost saver. So this, especially in operations world, is very helpful, where cost is a large factor, but also taking on new businesses. So by reducing time, our workforce, human workforce, was actually able to, well, take on new businesses, take on new processes, which also helped our customers in the end. So our customers got a better customer experience because of this. Also, we work in a highly regulated environment as being a bank, where we have strict deadlines that we need to meet when we need to comply to the European Bank, European Central Bank, or the Dutch federal banks. And doing our customer due diligence, for instance, is not possible with just human workforce when we need to meet these deadlines. So this is where process automation comes in, and where we have a set of tools that we actually deploy to do a proper customer onboarding, customer due diligence, and transaction monitoring. So not only does it aid our customers better, but it also helps us to function better as a bank by meeting also our regulatory requirements.
No, very helpful, and good to practically see how this does translate into ability to deliver to mission critical processes, right? Ability to perform better, and just also hearing about some of the sprints, being able to get to a point within the business where you can build a sustainable automation in the course of 2 weeks, which is actually a segue into my next question. Then we'll go, after we address this with you, we'll go over to Praveen. I want you to shed some more light on the operating model that you built around this at ABN AMRO, right? It's probably not folks, the business is certainly empowered to lead, but it's probably not folks just desperately building things here and there. You know, what are some of the governance mechanisms that you've put in place? And I know governance can be like a heavy word and it can scare a lot of people, and I don't think it has to be that way. But how would you just put structure around your program to position yourself for greater levels of scale? I think this will be important, especially for folks who are getting started and wanting to know how they can mitigate and avoid challenges and missteps that can rise early in the process.
Yeah, definitely. So starting out with that first robot in that first team, well, governance is not really an issue at that point in time, but it's useful to think of how do you structure your program once you will scale it. So we've scaled from 1 team to over 20 teams, right? Where we split up platforming from delivery. So we created a center of expertise, and that center of expertise turned out to be our platform team. That platform team develops the entire platform for the entire RPA community, so for all the RPA teams. And they develop on that platform. The platform is not hosted by us. It is hosted in the cloud, in the private Azure cloud. But that really helped speed up the delivery, because the delivery teams did not have to think on having a suitable platform there in the organization. So it was there built for them. As far as the delivery teams go, culture is everything. So culture can make or break your program. And it doesn't matter if you have to have the best technology if you do not have the right people, right? You need to have the right people there. So we invested a lot in that culture, where we started off fairly traditional in a waterfall way of working. We have now transitioned to fully DevOps teams. where the teams are responsible for what they build. So they design it, they build it, they maintain it, and they own it. So the robot is really theirs. It's their baby. So they're responsible for the full lifespan of that robot. So next to that, teaming and working closely together is also important. So you can group a bunch of professionals together, but if these professionals are not a team and not willing to go the extra mile for each other, then still your program is difficult. So it's also wise to invest in creating the right culture and in the right way of working. I personally am closely attached with all of the team members. Even now, with the large span of control, I do the hiring and selecting of people myself, obviously together with a team of experts. And it's not necessarily the senior or the most expert developer that is the best there. Look for competencies. Look for people that can really take you and your program to the next mile. And especially in that first robot, that first automation process, the right people will get you a lot further than perhaps the most skilled people.
This is really helpful, Pascal. And I love the focus on choosing the right people. I love the focus on teamwork, right? Collaboration in order to, and it's a critical component, right? Not just technology, but this is a critical component in going from that first process to achieving scale. And I want to bring in Praveen as well, because you're spending a lot of time globally, Praveen, advising many different customers in this regard. And Pascal's insights, I'm sure, are relevant to many of our listeners as they think about having the right pieces, right? Right pieces on the board lined up in order to be successful. But would you add anything to that in terms of considerations for getting started, or just avoiding some of the missteps that can happen early in the process?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think whatever Pascal said, I think is so relevant. I think a lot of enterprises oftentimes tend to make this mistake of keeping automation as a very short-term initiative. They expect a lot of returns in quick turnaround, and it has invariably almost never happened for companies, right? It has taken its own course of time, and people have systematically in a very organized way kind of learned the technology and learned the utilization of this technology, right? And today, I think, David, we are at a point where I think if Pascal were to start the journey today, I think he wouldn't have that many challenges in terms of convincing the business stakeholders, because the value of RPA, automation, etc., is starting to resonate with people. I think people are beyond the basic questions of whether this technology works or not, right? In our advisory and in our conversation with customers, I think customers are really now looking at the concept of speed to value, right? How fast can I get it? What do I need to do right so that I can reduce the time it takes to get value? Though people understand that it might still be a certain duration of time they have to invest, but how can they shorten that, right? And what we've seen is there are like 4 or 5 drivers to that. Why people are excited about speed now is one, because to Pascal's point, I think 4 or 5 years ago, cost savings or bottom line impact was the primary driver, and it opened up a lot of use cases. We are seeing a fundamental shift there where the context of automation is moving away from bottom line to top line, right? So you are seeing more front-end automations, more customer experience-centric automations, more newer revenue stream-centric automations that are starting to kick in, right? So this whole fundamental shift from, hey, this is about cost saving, to, yeah, cost saving is a byproduct, but I'm really targeting customer and employee experience, right? So that's one fundamental shift. The other shift that we've seen, I think I talked about it earlier, is in terms of the whole approach of, I'll take a tool and do something on automation versus saying, look, I look for real problems in a process and I'll be scientific about it. And I will then decide whether RPA solves it, low-code, no-code solves it, API solves it, workforce automation solves it. And I will decide based on the gaps that I see in the process, right? That's a huge shift, huge cultural and mindset shift in terms of looking at the problem. The third point of arrival that we see that's happening is really in terms of the multi-platform strategy I talked about. So, I mean, we were talking to Duke Energy, and coincidentally, it's one of your large customers. They have gone from 0 bots to 1,000 bot in a very short span of time. And while they've obviously committed a lot to Kofax, they've also chosen platforms like ServiceNow or Nuance for different use cases. So it's the orchestration capability which is more important than a singular platform, right? Which is what customers are looking for. And today they feel confident that orchestration capability is available. Kofax gives that capability to customers. Other players are giving that capability to the customers as well. So that confidence is kind of building up. I think the shift from professional developers to citizen developers to business users and their empowerment to be able to build their own automation is a huge shift, which is enabling companies to think of speed to value. And lastly, I would say that it's also about how it has transitioned. I think Pascal kind of made that similar point. How it is transitioning from one task, siloed automations to a full automation, enterprise-wide priority, right? So that mindset again is changing, right? Or enterprises are looking at it more holistically than saying, look, let me do an automation here and automation there, kind of a strategy, right? So given these 5 scenarios or points of arrivals, I think the confidence on speed to value is increasing significantly. Obviously, we have a long way to go. Only about 20% companies are mature. 80% companies have to still attain maturity, and which is why I think the next 2 to 5 years is going to be very, very interesting. But I think we have all the drivers in place. We have all the technologies in place. We have all the ecosystems in place to be able to attain speed to value. And that's what is exciting in our conversations with our customers, David.
Absolutely, Praveen. And I really do appreciate how you also overlaid some of the go-forward considerations and what folks can expect over the next 2 to 5 years in general. I mean, at Kofax, we feel that we're very excited about it. Our investments and roadmaps are very aligned to some of those things that you brought up. It's crazy how we can get to a point in the conversation where it's almost already over. I mean, this time flies by. And so just on the same theme of go-forward considerations, I did want to bring Pascal back on just to share some final thoughts as to where he sees 2 to 5 years in your own program. You brought up which I thought was very interesting, the focus on the shift to the cloud. You've moved your automation initiatives into Azure. So I'm sure that's certainly accelerating the degree to which you're expanding. Can you just share a little bit more about where you're focused and headed in your program?
Yeah, sure. I just want to comment on what Praveen just said. If I would start today, I probably would not have the challenges convincing the business that this is technology that we need to use. But I'm sure if I should start today, there are a lot of challenges in choosing the right process, choosing the right package, choosing the right combination of technologies. 5 years ago, the technology stack was quite small, and now, well, you said it, Praveen, there are over 1,600 platforms there. So which one to choose might be tedious. So going for that choice, I would say go with ABN AMRO has a best-in-class approach, right? So we choose the best technology for the best fit there. But not only choose the best technology, as with culture, also choose the right strategic business partner, because the right strategic business partner can help you further, even if their technology might not be the best. But having that business partnership really helps accelerate your automation program. So as far as you go to the next 2 to 5 years, so 5 years in technology, it is like light years, right? So me doing a prediction in where we are in 5 years, it is nearly impossible. However, I do see a trend in us going from siloed technology approaches, where we use one technology for one problem, that will disappear. So I often said, if you have a hammer, everything's a nail. So if I have RPA as a tool, everything's a robot. but we should be more agnostic. We should think more holistic. And how can we combine technologies, having a bit of RPA, having a bit of orchestration on the BPM level, adding low-code to the mix as well. And if you combine it with an AI shell around it, you will transition to an intelligent automation platform. So this is where we are going. This is where we will be going. We will develop and we are developing at the moment, a bank-wide hyperautomation platform where we disclose APIs which are developed in the entire bank, but which can benefit our technologies. So if you look at where the market is going and what technology will be about, I think technology will not be about the number of robots. It will not be about this many dollars or euros you saved. It will be about a quality. Which quality of service can I deliver to my customers? Which quality of service can I deliver to my employees? And it's all about the speed that Praveen also mentioned. This is going to be more important than creating those cost drivers. And we've seen with ABN AMRO that has transitioned to a more sustainable way of working as well.
And I love how we come to the end of our journey here with a focus on outcomes, right? Quality of service to customers, quality of experiences, and again, the focus on people as well. Like, we are on this journey together. And our end goal is just to improve our performance, improve our ability to compete and to get ahead. So wanting to bring our panelists all back on the screen, I really do appreciate the time that we have spent together. Hopefully it has been insightful to all of you in the audience, and just to level set the products that we've talked about today in the Kofax portfolio, primarily Kofax RPA and Kofax Total Agility as well. And so for those who are interested in learning more or diving into a demo experience, certainly can try our Test the Future page, where you can sign up and begin to coordinate some deeper dive experiences and learn how those can be relevant in your business. Next on our agenda today, we're going to continue along the same lines. We've brought in an executive at AIA, one of the largest insurers in Singapore, to talk about how they've brought in digital capabilities to extend service to citizens. You know, their ability to go from strategy to execution is touching a substantial portion of the population in Singapore. So that should be a very rich discussion. Looking forward to the insights we'll be able to deliver to you via it. And just a broader agenda. Look out for our breakout sessions later on today as well. We've brought on several more executives to bring in and talk through their stories of how they have navigated vision and really moved into successful implementation and scale using Kofax solutions. So again, thank you for spending time with us, you know, at this point in the agenda, and continue to leverage the chat, continue to interact with us, and we will certainly be around to respond and to answer your questions and meet your needs throughout this event.